The Long Way Home is a memoir written by SAROO BRIERLEY, an Indian businessman and writer who grew up in Australia. SAROO is aged 5 and lives in Ganeshtala, Western India, with his mother Kamla and his siblings Guddu, Kallu and Chekila. They end up in utter misery after their father abandoned them. Their mom is forced to carry rocks for a living and to be absent even days from home. They survive by begging and doing odd jobs, poorly paid and dangerous. One evening, SAROO persuades Guddu to take him with him. The child is tired though, and Guddu decides to let him sleep on a bench at the station. "Don't move, I'll be back soon," he says. When SAROO wakes up, his brother isn't there. Frightened, he jumps on a train waiting at the platform to look for him. The train suddenly moves and SAROO finds himself alone and stuck on the train. That train will take him 1,600 kilometers away to one of the world's largest, most populous and poorest cities, Kolkata. He can speak just a few words in Hindi, while Kolkata's spoken language is Bengali. He will try first to catch a train home, then will live for weeks on the streets, escaping countless dangers such as drownings and kidnappings. Finally, a boy takes him to the police station. He's first sent to a juvenile home, and then the ISA Association takes him to an orphanage. Unable to recall his name or the name of his town correctly, he's finally given up for adoption to the Brierleys in Australia. 20 years later, with the help of Google Earth, he starts his painstaking search for his home and birth family in India, finding them a few years later. He finally embarks on a journey from Australia back to India in search of his roots. The film adaptation arrived in 2016 under the name Lion, The Long Way Home, starring Dev Patel and Nicole Kidman. The film received 6 Oscars and 4 Globe nominations. Producers launched an awareness-raising campaign in partnership with 3 associations in India, fundraising to fight against the 80,000 children who disappear every year and hundreds living on the streets. Producers treat the essence of the story, the tragedy of poverty, and SAROO's journey with the utmost respect. The differences with the book lie in the details. In the film, SAROO lives 2 months on the streets instead of 3 weeks. The city where he found out Google Earth is Melbourne instead of Canberra, and we don't see the drowning scenes or his brother Kallu. The book, unlike the movie, it delves more into SAROO's stay in India and the aftermath of his return. The book also contained the conflict between the Hindu and Muslim religions and his adoptive mother's poor and violent past. It is an emotional and breathtaking story that stirs our consciences, a journey into the human soul, a story of hope, determination, and willpower. As SAROO writes, "I wrote this book to show how great you can be if you put your mind to it and make use of every available resource and opportunity." On his way, SAROO will meet people indifferent to his situation, people trying to cause him harm, and others who will be crucial for his survival. He will trust the right person at the right time, thus saving himself from inevitable death. In the first chapters, the book takes us among the poor of India, describing their customs and traditions, even talking about circumcision, a practice SAROO himself was submitted to, or the religious confrontation between his mother's Hindu and his father's Muslim religions. One cannot help but meditate on how we, the Westerners, with our wealth, take things for granted and often forget how lucky we are on this side of the globe. Little SAROO is happy, despite not even having the money for a rudimentary kite, because he's loved, while, despite love and wealth, we are often unhappy. However, SAROO too has been lucky. His true story has a happy ending. Unfortunately, few of them have one. This story gives us hope for a better future, provided everyone plays a part. SAROO emphasizes the importance of human relationships throughout his whole story. His biological and adoptive family play a central role in SAROO's life, enabling him to overcome obstacles and finally realize his dreams. Hope is one of the main elements of this story. Right after SAROO understands he will not find his family back, there comes the adoption, an opportunity he seizes to have a new family, while not giving up on his dream to meet his biological mother and siblings. The other key element is generosity. Two people, able to have their own kids, decides to help children in need to have a future. SAROO has been adopted rapidly thanks to the streamlined procedures of the time. How many children could be saved if only now the international adoption process were smooth? Mantosh, SAROO's adoptive brother, would have been far less traumatized if arrived earlier in Australia. Almost halfway through the book, the author throws us back to World War II with the story of his adoptive mother's family with the violence and poverty they endured. Two seemingly different human beings connected by the rough time they went through. They found their new life thanks to a mutual love which transcends cultural and language barriers. This story shows us the technology's positive impact on our lives. Without Google Earth, we wouldn't have any happy ending. SAROO, or SAROO as we'll see, was a lion, and we hope this story will be an example and source of inspiration. A story that came to us thanks to the incredible memory of a 5-year-old boy.